Hello. In 1943, Life magazine released this copy of Life magazine. Because of what was in the magazine, the United States government asked Life magazine to pull the magazine from distribution and not to send out any more magazines with that particular story. And the story is Detroit is Dynamite. The reason why the government asked Life magazine to withdraw it was because they were afraid that this magazine would wind up in the hands of Joseph Goebbels, who was Adolf Hitler's minister of propaganda. The photos, the 20 photos in this magazine, I guarantee you have never seen, unless you have access to this magazine. In the magazine, it quotes, Detroit can either blow up Hitler or it can blow up the United States. 1 year before this magazine came out in Detroit, at the Packard Motor Factory, the Packard company elevated about 200 or 300 black workers to the conveyor belt and to the line in which they produce vehicles. If you were there, you would have heard on the microphone, I would rather see Adolf Hitler and Hitler win the war than to work next to a blank. Well, let's start with why I'm here. Again, my name is Ronald Anderson. This network is about economics, history, and finance in simple terms. We're on a particular venue of infrastructure. Within infrastructure, there are particular network homes, just so you know, would be plumbing, sewage, telecommunications, heat, and electricity. But we're going to be talking about gentrification. First of all, what is gentrification? Well, gentrification was a term that was created in 1964 by Ruth Glass in London. And she was identifying some Irish neighborhoods that they wanted removed and replaced by more upscale people. That's the basic definition of gentrification. The word comes from gentry. Gentry is someone who would be between a noble and a working class person, like an artisan or a business person. That would be gentry. But what I want to prove to you in this case is this was not a case of gentrification. This was a case of racial gentrification. Now, in order to make that comment, I have to define what racial gentrification is and how it differs from gentrification, in my mind. Again, gentrification is the elimination of a class of people to be replaced by an upper class. It's a financial term in a nutshell. Racial gentrification could be the elimination of a particular group of people where the finances are not driving that, where there's some other element that is driving the elimination of that community. And I believe in the case of Detroit, that's what happened. Okay, you must destroy a community in order to gentrify it. Let me go back and give you some background on how gentrification was used. There was redlining where they actually rated each area. They deemed the poor areas poorest. They would not invest in poor areas. There was restricted covenants, which allowed in your lease only to lease on the terms of the covenant of that lease, which restricted people. There's declining of public schools and reduction of services, neglection of the environment, and the rent gap. The rent gap in itself is where the price of the home is exceeded or closely followed by the price of the property taxes. Detroit was founded in 1701 by a French trader, and it was somewhat of a little bit backwater town until the Erie Canal came along in 1826. That boosted Detroit's wealth. Some people even said Detroit was the Paris of the West. Washington Boulevard in Detroit was lit all the time. And it was a transportation hub with its access to the Erie Canal, railroads, and the Mississippi River. But what really made Detroit big was the automobile. Immigrants flowed up. The great migration of 6 million black people from the South, not all to Detroit, but began. In the 50s, Detroit had the highest per capita income in the United States. You could come with no education to Detroit and find a job and be middle class. That was very rare, but yet Detroit was one of the whitest cities in the North. The population exploded. One of the major problems is black people came north. They couldn't find housing. There were people literally living in tents, making middle class incomes. Detroit's population continued to expand and expand and expand. But there was little or no accommodations left for the people as it grew. And the blacks began to settle in a place called Black Bottom and Paradise Valley. Now, the mystery begins. Typically, when a new program is being built and the federal government funds the program, before the Highways Act of 1956, the federal government usually paid half and the local municipality paid half. Afterwards, the federal government paid 90% and the municipality paid 10%. But the most salient thing about that was the choice on how the infrastructure would be deployed in the locality was up to the jurisdiction of that locality. Now, why is that important? Remember, I said in 1950s, the per capita income in Detroit was higher than any place in the United States. In Detroit, I did say there was a community called Black Bottom. There was a community called Paradise Valley. Visiting these communities was Jesse Owens, Joe Louis, Adam Clayton Powell, Aretha Franklin's church was there, Langston Hughes, Sammy Davis, and Billie Holiday. Does that sound like a community that is black? No, it was a very prosperous community. Now, an interesting point, in 1948, before Detroit had that position of being the highest per capita income, there were plans to destroy this black neighborhood. So the plans were developed in 1948, which means they had to have been thought about years before then. Knowing that this is a prosperous neighborhood, there were still plans to eliminate it. So, the neighborhood was replaced by a park, and it was replaced by an intersection. Now, further with Detroit, riots occurred in 1967. When Coleman Young became the mayor, white flight went out of style. People ran from Detroit. The Japanese cars started killing Detroit. People started leaving. Both middle class and wealthier whites left the city. The Reagan cutbacks, the oil crisis. Detroit was really in some serious trouble. So, along comes Dan Gilbert, the owner of Quicken Loans, and the hipsters that followed him. Dan then bought up about 85 buildings in downtown Detroit. Downtown Detroit, I have to say this. Detroit's a big city. Detroit is the size of Manhattan, San Francisco, and Boston put together. But what happened when Dan Gilbert came along, 7 miles of Detroit got so much money put into it, the other remaining 138 miles got practically nothing, and that's where the black people were deported to. Food deserts, pharmacy deserts, no public transportation. They built a system in a 7-mile area in downtown Detroit to transport the hipsters to the new Detroit. So, now it's time we're going to get to some of the pictures that I promised I was going to show you. So give me a second here. Again, you've never seen these, and I'm going to try to explain them to you. Okay. This picture right here, race riots in Detroit. You can see a black man running to try to escape some vigilante white youth. Let's flip to the next page. This is really startling. Look at this one young man over here. You can see him in the corner? Look at the mob scene behind him. Look at that mob scene. Here's a man on the bottom who was pulled off a bus and beaten. And here was a man, an older man, trying to escape from being beaten. Another young man being chased down the street. Another young man being pulled off the bus. Here's someone over here, they ripped his suspenders off. Now here's a man down here, they tore his shoe off. And the policeman standing there to try to, I guess, intervene. And here's a man on the bottom that the police are supposedly protecting. On the right side is a policeman that got hit in the head with a Coke bottle. Now here are demonstrations downtown in the black neighborhoods. And on the very bottom, you can see what happened in the black neighborhoods. The white people were treated with tear gas. The black people were treated with machine guns. And on the top is a soldier trying to save a black man. On the very bottom, I give these two gentlemen saved this man's life. And here's a policeman harassing or whatever to a young man. We're almost done. Finally, in a black neighborhood, cars torched. Both black and white businesses were affected. Now, if you want a copy of the pictures or the write-ups, please put that in the comments. I'll try to get that out to you. If you can get a copy of this is a piece of history. I mean, Again, I have never heard of the government pulling a magazine. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. I'd like to give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. Have a great day. Bye.